Right, so I think today we're going to have a look at the Everyday Enchantments Harrow, Finding the Magic in the Mist of Life by Poppy Palin. It's actually quite a tragic story about Poppy. If you've not heard, Poppy passed away, I think it was last year. She took her own life in the end. She suffered a lot throughout her life with mental health. She had a lot of emotional pain, mental pain, and physical pain throughout her life. And I think in the end up it all came too much. And I just think it's really, really sad that someone that was putting things out there for other people to find a way to cope with their lives just struggled so much in the end herself. I just think it's really sad. But this is an amazing deck. I got this deck, God, a few years back now, and I got it when I was in a really, really dark place in my life. A really dark place in my life. And the only reason why I stopped working with this deck is because a card just kept repeating for me, and I feel like in the end up it was pulling me back to the negative place that I was working to get myself out of, and keeping something kind of fresh that didn't need to be kept fresh anymore, something that I was moving along from. So I feel like it done its job, and it was, you know, it was basically, I feel like it was egging me to leave it alone. This deck is very raw, it's very intense, especially the guidebook. I mean, it's amazing, absolutely amazing, but it's very raw and very intense. And we'll have a flip through. Now, I absolutely butchered my deck. This deck comes in, it comes in a box the size of this that opens this way. I do have the box somewhere, I'm not sure where it is. I think it might be holding all my incense and stuff like that. But I butchered this deck, absolutely chopped into it. So this deck actually comes with borders this wide all the way around, and the borders change colour throughout the deck, throughout the suits. So it was really good to learn with, or to use to, it would be a good deck for learning with, because you kind of get the colour association, so you know which card you're looking at and stuff like that. But I had a very first go at trimming a deck. I nearly broke my thumb in the process. I done it with scissors, and as you can see, I mean, just look at the chunks that it's pulling. I absolutely butchered it, but at the same time, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it. It kind of, part of me wishes that I would have left the borders alone. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I have unfocused the camera, so we'll have a flick through the cards, and I think we'll have a bit of a chat about mental health while we're doing it. And if that's not your thing and you just want to look at the cards, then feel free to mute. But I think mental health is something that we all deal with at some point in our lives. It's something that affects everybody, and nobody is immune to it. Some people cope better with it, or appear to cope better with it, than others, and some people just don't cope with it well at all. We all have our own ways of dealing with things, but life gets heavy for us all. There's something that will happen throughout our lives that will affect us in a big negative way. 1 second. I had to turn my lights on because it's literally just been bright outside, and now it's gone dead dull. Now that we're going to look through the cards. So this is a hard-hitting deck. This is a quite raw deck, and I think when I look, maybe I didn't realise it then, or maybe, you know, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I feel like when I read through this guidebook now and read different stories and different parts of this guidebook, I feel like this was kind of Poppy telling her own story and speaking her own mind and speaking her own fears and everything else along with it out in this deck. I really feel like it was. It's not the only deck she's ever produced, but I feel like I don't have that the other deck. She was in the process of remaking that deck. I don't think it would. I don't think she got around to completing it. But I feel like there's a lot of her in this deck, and I feel like it almost reads now when I read through and like I'll randomly pick a page and read through it. It almost feels like hearing her story, because she did put out a couple of videos to be posted after her death on YouTube, and YouTube have actually left them up, which is, you know, a good thing, because they weren't bad videos. I mean, they were absolutely heartbreaking. It was, I think I sobbed like a baby when I watched them, or listened to them, I should say. But I feel like a lot of her is in this deck, and reading through the guidebook, it's almost like she's voicing where she was at in life through this deck. So I'll have a flip through the cards. So as I say, this usually comes with a border that is this thick all of the way around them. They're usually massive cards, but I needed to be able to handle them, so I just did my best at hacking into them. I don't think they look that bad. They may be a little bit busy in hindsight without borders, because especially when you get them next to each other, it's a bit much to be looking at. So I think in hindsight the borders did break up the images a little bit. Look at our Fool. Magician. So I think her vision behind this deck was just to see, like, recognise, especially in the darkest times, like the amazing things that are in the world. Now throughout this deck there are little sprite creatures. This one here is here. Where are you on this one? And the one on this one's up in the corner up there. The little sprite creatures. Now this is spirit. This is supposed to be spirit. So this is the unseen energy. Anything that's living within the card has like a blue outline around it, and I believe this was her supposed to be showing the essence of a person, or the aura of the living creatures throughout the deck and people. It's a very raw deck. I mean, some of the guidebook is a bit. It can be a bit much if you're in a delicate place. It could be something that would may make you feel a bit worse. I mean, it certainly did with me a few times, but kind of get it now. As a pull your socks up energy. That's the Empress. The Emperor. The Hierophant. There's lots of little Easter eggs and things to look at throughout this deck, like tons of things to notice and look at throughout this deck. And you probably, these are the kind of cards where you look at them and your eyes will be pulled to something different each time. Like, I can honestly, hand on heart, say that I've never noticed that there's a spider on this card before. The majors all have black borders. I love this lovers card. This is one, this would have been my favourite lovers card, really. Shows kind of love of all kinds throughout it. But I like that the older people have got the more prominent position on the card, because it kind of shows you the long term. The Chariot. Strength. I think this is one of the like kind of earlier inclusive decks as well that I ever seen. The Hermit. The Wheel of Fortune. Justice. I think in the end what I found when towards like the end of, because I stopped using this deck a while ago, as I say, I feel like I run my course with it, and I feel like in the end up, in order to get me to stop using it, the deck would literally pull cards about situations and stuff, and things would always happen in the exact opposite of whatever I was getting from the cards, and it was almost like they were giving me backwards readings. It's like cryptic backwards readings that I would get from the deck, and I just felt like it served its purpose. It was really bizarre. Hanged Man. Death. Temperance. The Devil. I had night terrors a while ago, and this dude here was in my night terrors. The Tower. Now the interesting thing, I believe this Tower card and this deck was out before the Grenfell Tower tragedy that happened, and I just feel like it's a really weird foretelling. It's really, really strange. It's just odd, isn't it, to do a card like this, and then I think not long after, it weren't even that long after that happened. It was a bit of a raw one. But that's what I mean as well about this deck. It's got an energy about it where it is raw, very raw. With the Star. And the fact that she chose as well in the Star to show the aftermath of the Tower, instead of like, you know, just doing a Star card at a different scene, it was like the aftermath of this Tower. I just think that's a strange little fact there. The Moon. The Sun. Judgment. And the World. Absolutely gorgeous wall card. I apologise if you can hear my dog snoring. Ace of Blades. So the swords have been changed to blades. And the 2. I think it's raw as well because it is like real, like it's meant to be depicting things that you will see, feel, come across, experience, witness in real life. And because of that, you see in cards that can be quite triggering. I feel like some of the cards can be quite triggering. Because of the real life aspect to it. The 3. And I believe she sadly lost her parents, Popper, and she was having a really hard time dealing with that. And then I think an old partner or an old flame came back into her life and was helping her get over that and get along, you know, get on and move beyond that, and helping her just to heal. And he was, from the sounds of it and from what she had to say and everything, he was really helping her. And then sadly he was taken from her as well. He passed away, and she felt like she had nobody. And that's not true, you know, like when you hear the video that she's put out, she's speaking from her perspective. And then when I say about mental health, it's like it's subjective, isn't it? Because you would think that she was very lonely, you would think that she had nobody in her life, you'd think that everybody had passed away and she had nobody left. And that's not the case at all. She actually had a fair few friends, and she still had family that loved her very, very dearly. But I think when you're dealing with mental health, when you're dealing with depression or emotional pain, you can feel very consumed by it, and you can feel very alone. Now, I was diagnosed, oh God, with depression and anxiety when I was a kid. Basically, anxiety when I was about 5 years old. I was diagnosed with that, and I feel like that's a passed on trait from my mum. My mum's a very anxious person, and I think she triggered me off into having these kind of reactions to things. But then as I was older, not even too many moons ago now, probably about, what's it, about 7 years ago, I was actually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And that's like kind of where I was going through a really shitty dark time, and just how things played out. And whereas I've got a fair few friends myself, I can understand the mental health perspective of it, of feeling very alone and feeling like you've got nobody and feeling like you don't kind of fit or belong anywhere. Because I myself can have like quite intense feelings of like, it's not even, I can't even say it's loneliness, it's beyond that. It's like I just feel empty. And I feel like when you like that and you can't explain or give a reason, because you can have friends saying to you, but you're not on your own, you're not alone, you know. And yeah, that's true, but you can't verbalize things like that. So I can when I listened to what she had to say, I could understand every word of what she was saying. It's really sad, really sad. It's really, I mean, when I listened to it as well, it kind of got me thinking about myself, because I was like, I'm like, oh, it's really sad. I felt really bad for her and everything. And I'm like, well, you know, that's why you probably should be a bit more compassionate with yourself as well. Because I'm not. I'm probably my own worst critique and my own worst enemy. So we got the 4. I love this card. The 5. I'm getting into a waffle, I apologise. But I just think knowing like a story and then hearing a story, and hearing how she spoke as well, when you look through these cards as well, you're kind of seeing her story in the cards as well. I mean, one of the images is of a tattoo artist, and it's like she done that. You know, she used to do tattoos on people, and I feel like she put herself into this deck a bit. Seven. Eight. Nine. Now this one right here was my stalker card. And it still kind of gets me. It gets me feeling some kind of way, this card. And I feel like in the end up it was a card that was kind of causing more damage to my thinking than helpful. So I feel like it served its purpose, and it was time to put this deck down. And I might just read this one, actually. This is another one that I want to read to you as well. Where are we? Nine of Where are we? Bend straight open to it because I've opened it that many times on this page. So the Nine of Blades. Guilt, anxiety, anguish, regret, negativity, nightmares, torment, depression, and retrospection. So the image is quite a long write-up, by the way, this one. The image resembles the Rider-Waite card, with a distressed person sitting up in bed covered in an astrological quilt. Here the atmosphere is brooding, and the young woman's brow is furrowed in her hands, as her hands cover her face. She has barbed wire tattoos on her wrist expressing entrapment or torment, and a rose tattoo on her shoulder referencing the traditional card design while showing that the girl once appreciated beauty. A concerned pug dog sits on her lap whilst an unseen companion echoes her disquiet. To her left there is a clock showing the late hour. This is a dark night of the soul, and there are spilled pills by the bedside lamp, plus another bottle that may be empty. Has this distraught girl taken too many tablets, or is she contemplating it? On her long pointed red nails are tiny swords, her blades depicting inner conflict. Around her neck is a razor blade pendant, a sharp reminder of self-destruction. So the story, so this is like, that's the little sprite there, and the little sprite's got its hands like kind of over its ears. The dog, I mean, this card just stalked me, and at the time I only had two pugs. I only had two. I've got pug dogs, and I only had two at the time. And this card just, oh. So the story. So this is her speaking to you. I can't stop crying as everything goes round my head. Everything that's wrong with my life. Everything I've done wrong. A latent it of what ifs and self recriminations. No matter how I try to see things differently, I can't escape the thought that everything's my fault and I've ruined any chance of happiness. The price for being such a failure is lying awake in the small hours, weeping after another nightmare. Every dark dream finds me trying to lock out the unseen monster that's pushing its way in. But the door won't shut properly, and I know that I can't hold it back. Just as it bursts through, I wake, heart racing, sweat slicking my skin, and But escape only brings momentary relief, because then I remember that my waking reality is a nightmare too. And the real monster is me. I'm tearing myself apart with my own regret, and wherever I go, I have to take me with me. If it wasn't for my devoted little dog, I'd take the rest of those pills and go into oblivion. What a blessed relief to drift into a void where the monsters would finally be vanquished. But my dog is my saving grace that links me back to the world of kindness and hope, where there are other feelings besides jagged pain. He believes in my innate goodness, no matter what I have done, and I can't let go of that. Because of his love, I tried to ride out these endless stormy nights. Maybe one day I'll find myself worthy of his unconditional acceptance and live up to his expectations. Until then, I try to endeavour. So the meaning behind the card, and this is where it can get a bit like kind of harsh when it gets in. I mean, the stories, I mean, they can be a bit I mean, that was me. I might as well have been reading out what I'd wrote down. You know, it's absolutely crazy. But these cards can kind of get you there. You know, they're quite relative, shall we say. So the meaning, this card isn't joyous or easy, but it shows us something we've probably all experienced and may well do again. A sleepless night while we worry or grieve. Here there's raw anguish of breakdown or the distress of disappointment and defeat. Here are night terrors that make us spooked, afraid of our own shadows or nameless fears. We're scared of anything that could go wrong and horrified by anything that already has. Reliving unpleasant moments is inevitable as we process and learn from events, but endlessly worrying at previous experiences and catastrophizing can become a habit. Are we anticipating every potential pitfall, or is there a present danger? The Three of Blades encourages our demonstration of grief after a genuine tragedy, while the Nine suggests that which disturbs us and saddens us may all be in our mind, a product of our excessive rumination. Instead of allowing feelings of guilt or trepidation to cripple us, we're asked to break the cycle of negative self-talk and work through our troubles in a constructive way, such as seeking counselling. Our inner demons are self-perpetuating and only flourish because of our unreasonable fear and self-loathing. We can exercise them in two ways: by stilling our unquiet mind, perhaps through meditation, as did the man in the Four, and by finding empathy for ourselves. Here the faithful pug dog reminds us that we are worthy of love, including our own. So I absolutely, and they like just literally called like the Nine of Blades, the knife's edge. So that's particularly like poignant to where I was in my life, and it really helped me. It actually really helped me. I mean, it can be a bit of tough love, you know, like some of the things that is getting across to you that, you know, actually it's all in your mind. You need to work on this. And while it is all in our minds, for the most part, you know, it does recognise the fact that it's not always that simple just to work through it, but we should at least endeavour to try nonetheless. And I think I got to a point where I was actually working on myself and starting to get to a place where I was actually doing really well. And because of that, when this card kept coming up, it would put me back to feelings or thoughts or things that I'd done that I've kind of made peace with and put to bed, and then like having me ruminate or think about it over and over again. So it was kind of having a counterintuitive kind of situation going on with me. And I feel like that's when I like kind of retired this deck. May come out again at some point, you never know. I don't think I'd ever get rid of it. I don't think it's a deck that would ever pass along. So then we've got the 10 of blades. Page. The Knight. Queen. And the King. Ace of Wands. She was an artist, obviously. If you look at the images through this, I feel like on a lot of these images, I feel like she's depicting some aspect of her own self. Got the 2. Three. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 'And again, with all the colour pencils out and everything, I feel like she's kind of depicting herself a little bit here. Page. The Knight. Queen. And the King. I do really remember, I don't know if anybody else did, you know, you have to forgive me for that, but I remember when I got this deck and thinking, wow, because of all the diversity through it, not just like skin tones, the size, the abilities, like showing like actual depictions of mental health and stuff like that through it as well, and actual suffering through it as well. And I remember being like really wowed with this deck, and it's a beautiful, and I really want to, I want to pull it out again, but then at the same time I feel like not at the minute, not right now. Not right now. I'm not really in that headspace. This might be a deck that is for when I'm really going through it. Got the Ace of Cups. The 2. And again, like kind of, I like the way you've got the 2 women in the back, the 2 guys at the front, a man and a woman over there. You know, it give a lot of diversity, which I'd not seen. Three. 4. I mean, it's a stunning deck, and it's an absolutely stunning deck. I think she's done well with this deck. I do think she's done well with it. Possibly not as well as it should have. When she died, I pulled a card, and I found out she'd passed away. I pulled a card, just a what were you thinking kind of card, and I'll read that one to you as well because it seemed quite poignant. Five. 6. 7. There's the tattery one. I don't know, she's done stuff like that for people. I don't know, she's done tattoos with people. 8. 9. 10. Page. The Knight. I remember this being the first like kind of Knight of Cups card as well that actually ever made any kind of sense to me. It's like that one, it's like the Knight of Cups is like the lustful, the one that kind of will stare you out as you go by and make you feel like you've got some kind of connection to them. Do you know what I mean? They're just someone that's yeah. And knowing the Knight of Cups, they're definitely the ones that I would steer clear of now. The Queen. And the King. Ace of Coins. The 2. The 3. 4. 5. 6. See, I kind of like this one. I like it just from the image alone. It makes me just feel like someone that kind of gives, and then everybody's kind of throwing their hand out to him like, oh. You see, you could get that from it just from the image alone, but she does go in like a bit of a different direction as well with the guidebook. A 7. This was the card that I pulled when I found out she passed away. This is the card that I pulled, so I'll have a read this one as well. One sec. Sorry, I just had to run and grab myself a drink. Okay, so the 7 of coins. Where are you? So the 7 of coins, taking stock, she's put as the title to a page. And then the keyword she's put: assess, review, consider, choice, reward, strategy, preserve, commit, progress, result, and gain. I want to tell you, Poppy left messages. She actually recorded a few videos that she wanted sharing. It was just images showing bits and pieces of her life, you know, showing some of her artwork, showing some pictures of her, some pictures of people that she held dear and stuff. And then she was kind of giving a commentary over it. And this was the only way we were going to see this, as if she succeeded in what she was doing, or what she wanted to do, what she intended to do. She thought it through. From listening to her, I feel like you can tell that she'd considered for the most part, but at the same time she felt like she was alone, so there was still something that was amiss, something that she was missing, and some other factors that she wasn't really taking into account. The idea of choice, you know, strategy. She had a strategy. She knew what she was doing. From what you can hear, that she knew what she was doing, and I feel like maybe those close to her knew that she knew what she was doing, and that's why they honoured her wishes and released the video. So in the image, the Rider-Waite card depicts a man leaning on his spade in a vineyard, contemplating the literal fruits of his labour. Here a woman stands at a craft stall, with the pole holding up the canopy reflecting the spade's shaft. The stall is brimming with attractive designs, several in forms of owls, symbolising wisdom and foresight. There's floral bunting and bright cushions, and the woman herself wears a necklace of fabric flowers expressing growth and artistic bloom. She's so absorbed in contemplating the merit of her handiwork that she doesn't see the person in front of her offering 7 coins. Her dog looks back to attract her attention, while an unseen being also urges her to receive her just rewards. In the background, a family are browsing, and another stallholder is working, suggesting a lively energy. There's also plenty of greenery around, representing flourishing creativity. So the story. So this is this character speaking to you. No matter what I do, I'm never satisfied. I savour the creative process, but then when an item's finished, it's never quite right. Don't get me wrong, I'm passionate about what I make, but my vision never fully comes to fruition. I can slave over a piece for weeks and still find it wanting. If only I had 10 lifetimes to get everything just right. If you're an artist of any kind, you'll know what I mean. You're always spurred by that hunger for perfection. Does creation itself feel that urge to keep improving? It may want each curve to be made more eloquent, each scent to become more sweeter, and every colour made richer. On and on, with everything evolving in an endless variation on a theme. A bit like my own owl designs, I got a bit carried away there, yet they still aren't exactly as I want them. I wonder if they'll ever be. I've seen so many crafts at this fair, I don't know if I'd be better working in ceramics or wood instead of fabric. I feel like I should push myself to keep fresh and explore, or shall I keep on allowing myself to, allowing what I do to unfold naturally. And it's got, I could really do with some confirmation that my work is worthwhile. Now, why is my dog barking at me? What's wrong, girl? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. You want to buy all of my owls and to order more for your shop. Terrific. I think it's interesting that I pulled this card for her, purely because I feel like she felt like she'd done really well with her decks. From what she was saying in the video, you can tell she felt like she'd done a lot, but maybe it wasn't enough. And she actually comments that somebody had said to her once, like, you know, all great artists, when you pass away, you become more well known. People start to appreciate you a bit more, whereas they maybe didn't throughout your life. And I just think it's, I just thought it was an interesting card that came up for her. It's about choice, and because I think sevens are about choice and about reflection and assessment. Are you happy with where you're at, or whether you want to move on? And I just thought that was interesting that that's the card that I pulled. You got the 8 of coins. The 9. The 10. Page. The Knight. I think she could have done him a little bit happier. He looks a bit grumpy, doesn't he? Queen. And the King. So this deck was an absolute monster to shuffle. I couldn't even get my hands around it this way, never mind the other way. So that's why I kind of committed to butchering the poor thing. I don't think it looks that bad, to be honest. I have hacked into, so you can see it's more down this way than it is this way, obviously, because this would be the bottom where the titles are that I left on. It does shuffle all right still, though. I don't know about this way, though, because it is like literally all different. I mean, I still can't get my hands around it to shuffle it that way. You can see how grotty and grubby it looks. Even though it's been trimmed down, you can still see how grotty and grubby it is. But this is a fantastic deck, and it's one that I do think people should dive into, just to get, look at that card. Just to get a little just to get some new ideas, and just to get a little bit more real world from the messages and stuff from the Rider-Waite, because even though the Rider-Waite does give you a real world situation, it you know, sometimes it's nice to dive in and look through, as much as it isn't nice to look through and see images of like what's going on with you, especially if it's a darker time. At the same time, it's kind of comforting, because that image wouldn't be there if nobody else had experienced what you're going through. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of gave me a bit of comfort in that way with that card. I'll not find it again now. But it kind of gave me a bit of comfort that way with that card. And I'm really grateful for the energy that I got from this deck when I really needed it, to be honest. Because I feel like sometimes it was really kind. Or sometimes it explains something, it'd make me really sad. But then part of the message would be a bit like, kind of, come on now, pull your socks up and get working. Get working to get yourself out of this funk. And I really appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. If anybody struggles with the mental health, or anybody's got any issues with the mental health, you know, if you want to reach out and have a chat, but you know, if you need someone to chat to at any time, feel free to message me or anything, because I'd be happy to help anybody out. I've been there myself. I will also list a couple of numbers down. I'm in the UK, so I only know the UK numbers. I'll list a few numbers down below for other people that you can contact in situations where you may feel like you just need to have someone to chat to and get something off your chest. These numbers are fantastic. I've used them myself. I wouldn't say to you to use them or tell you that they're fantastic if I hadn't used them myself. I have used them myself. And sometimes just getting shit off your chest and just being able to say what you are thinking and feeling without being judged is all the therapy that you need. It's all like the release that you need in some situations. So I highly recommend it to anybody that may be suffering with mental health or anybody that's going through a hard time. And I shall leave this here. So this has been a look at the Everyday Enchantment Tarot by Poppy Palin. I hope she rests in peace, and I hope she found the peace that she was looking for. Okay.